Good evening, Mr. Perfect. Welcome to TRH, another version of the Reconnection Hour by Mr. Perfect. I'm Terry, CEO, founder of Mr. Perfect. As a lot of you will know by now, Mr. Perfect brings men together at barbecues to create communities and connection for the betterment of mental health and also to reduce isolation. Obviously, we can't be doing that now physically, so there are a number of other initiatives we run at the moment, online barbecues, chats and groups and stuff through our socials, and obviously what we're doing tonight with TRH. So what's TRH? Well, it's a number of things. Seems to have been a fairly decent success so far. We chat to health professionals, our own barbecue hosts sometimes, and other people doing incredible things in the world of connection. So really, the update on the week that's been for us so far, I've been a bit flat this week, personally. I think I was coasting through this COVID situation thinking, oh, I'm untouched. This is feeling quite good. Excuse me. Being a sort of introvert myself, and I can get a lot of stuff done and I can plan and everything's all good. And then this week was just a bit unsettling. I don't know why really, but also wasn't well, a bit of a cold as well, so maybe that was it. But kind of recognized that and took some steps to alleviate it, which was good. The thing that really though kicked off my week in a good way was the online barbecue on Sunday. Our best yet, 12:30 on Sunday. We had 13 guys turn up to the online barbecue, and about half hour in, someone asked a question which just sent the trajectory of it into the sky. And there was a lot of opening up in a real safe, comfortable way. There was a lot of education of people helping each other. And there's a lot of gratitude at the end of it, which was incredible. Really great chat. We will be doing that again this Sunday, so make sure you tune in. This week I also did a live stream or a presentation in some sense for a large recruitment company in Australia, and did it just to the men over Zoom, their employees. And that brought up a lot of questions. Things that I thought men already knew, or I knew, or other people knew. There's some real basic stuff around the processes of getting help, whether it be professional or not professional, and some real technicalities as well, which I'm amazed that we've not been educated on. So I'm going to get some advice on those from professional people, and then write a couple of blogs and post them out to the guys as well, so they can answer some of those questions and see if it can help you guys. I have been doing a bit of a t-shirt giveaway. I think I put on the Facebook community group. Good to see everyone posting them in the group. Just to mention the larger guys, so the bigger lads among us, I've still got a few free 3XXL and 4XXL I can give away. So please comment here tonight, or send me a DM, or comment somewhere on our page, and I'll send you one. Promise I'll get one to you. On that note, one of the guys that posted a picture of himself in one of our t-shirts is Chris Lytas. I think I've said that right. I'm sure he'll correct me. Chris has a drive to make people comfortable. This is in his own words, talking about the uncomfortable. And as a co-founder of RightMate, he wants to see the brain viewed as a muscle. So we need to keep working on it and to keep it strong and clear. So I'm going to bring Chris in now. Welcome, Chris. How you going, mate?
How are you?
Very well, very well. Thank you for being here. How's your day been?
Yeah, it's been a good day. Yeah, can't complain. I picked up some contract work. It started on Tuesday this week. I've been stood down from my normal paid job. I work for Qantas, so I'm one of the 20,000+ odd people that was stood down. So it was very nice to after a few weeks off, get back into a bit of a Monday Friday routine, and the roles with Services Australia. So it's kind of giving back as well, which is really cool.
That's brilliant. Yeah. That's really cool. A bit of a theme there, working for two Australian patriotic organisations, I guess.
yeah. It's worked out really well. So it was either that, or I was going to be stacking shelves at Coles or Woolies, which would have been just as fine, I think. So I'm really not fussed which one came through.
Excellent. Well, we were just talking about, before you came on, just very briefly, about routine and how I've probably struggled a little bit this week. I still have some routine, and I'm incredibly lucky to be in work and have things to keep me going and purpose and everything else, and obviously working on this as well. But I think I just recognised this week that I'm looking forward to a bit more routine back and actually getting on some transport. And I never thought I'd say it, and actually getting back to an office where I'm physically around people as well, at least some of the week anyway. So, and I guess that's helped you this week, having having at least a little bit of structure.
Yeah, well, it's nice to be out of the tracky pants and the shorts. So I think I was getting a little bit too comfortable.
I saw a post the other day from one of the psychologists who follows us, a guy called Dr. Tim Sharp, Dr. Happy, excellent guy, and he posted a great meme about realizing that most of the stuff in his wardrobe, like, he just does not need. He now wears about 2% of his clothes, so he should really be getting rid of them. But anyway, I digress. So I'd love to hear, I'm sure everyone else would love to hear, first and foremost, before you talk about Right Mate, tell us a little bit about you and I guess background for as far back as you want to go and what led you into what you're doing now.
All right. So I'm 45, 46 in a few months, married, got a 10-year-old boy who I think is the coolest kid in the world. But they're all good. So for me, mental health is it's lived experience for me. I've had, or I know I have, sort of dealt with various levels of anxiety and depression for, I can probably go back to early childhood. Is probably my first sort of real memory when I look back at sort of having an episode as such. So it's kind of been it's been a part of my life, but not something I really addressed until, if I'm completely honest, 2016.
Wow.
Was when I finally actually addressed and went and got help. I have made multiple attempts on my life. First one was at 15, and then again at 22, and then it took it took the suicide of a really good mate of mine in 2016, and that subsequent downward spiral that I went through very, very quickly. It came out of the blue. It was one of those mates that you don't necessarily talk to every week, but when you catch up, you just pick up where you left off.
Got plenty of them.
Yeah, so we'd known each other for a good decade or so through work. Had become quite good mates, very similar, demographics, the whole kit and caboodle. He had, young kids and whatnot, and similar interests and whatnot, and we just gelled. He called it one day out of the blue, random chat, spoke for a couple of hours, mate, let's get together on the weekend for a beer. 2 days later, I got a phone call from his wife. They found him about 40, 50 Ks away. The police found him alone in a hotel, basically. So that really threw me. I was changing jobs at that time as well. And I was in a role that, when I look back retrospectively, was probably sending me down a really dark path. I was traveling a lot, pretty much every week, without fail, and I was away sort of 3-4 days a week. Yeah, pretty much. And then it was that cycle of, the phone was always on. It was an international company I was working for. Head office was in Europe, so you'd be on conference calls at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. It didn't matter because you were on their time, basically. And so then when he suicided and ended his life, it was just I just need to process this, because I had resigned at that point. I was changing jobs. I had another job I was trying to transition into, so I just had to deal with it. So I went through the processes, did the funeral, all kit and caboodle, EAP, yep, great, I'm fine, no worries at all, everything's great.
Put it in the box,
Yeah, threw myself into this new job, right? And then probably over the course of the next 3 months, it was subtle things when I look back now and talking to sort of my close mates. It was that, you're always busy. Every time we asked you whether you were all right, it was, work's just busy. I'm all good. Everything's fine. It was, I made excuses for everything. I'd cancel at last minute. All your classic signs, cancel turning up, not do catch-ups, this, that, and the other. You name it, I had an excuse for it. And I got myself pretty much to a point where I had everything pretty much planned. I had spoken with the lawyers, made sure the rules are up to date, our insurances were up to date, the whole kit and caboodle. I knew when, where, how, what, the whole kit and caboodle. And I can hand on heart tell you, if it wasn't for my wife, who 2 days before I was going, literally looked at me. We were sitting on the couch one night watching telly. She turned it off. And I'll excuse the language, but it doesn't sound the same if it doesn't come out right. She literally looked at me and asked what the fuck was going on. What she probably didn't expect was what came out of my mouth, because it was that valve release. And I just let everything go from there. And it went out. And so the next day I was at the GP getting myself on a mental health plan. And away we went. And I still see my sight as I need to, pretty much. And that was 3.5 years ago, right? But it took a few months of sort of seeing him quite regularly. And I then basically remember sitting in a session with him and just had a light bulb moment. And it was, I can choose to sort of go down this path, or I can choose to go down that path. And this path is just acknowledging what's happened and dealing with it and going, right. The other path is doing all of that, but then also looking for ways that can prevent people from going down that same path, or at least giving them an understanding that they're not on their own. Because that's what my experience was, very much that nobody was going to understand what I was going through. I was brought up in a household that was, I was very independent from a very young age. So you just learnt to deal with stuff. And, emotion just wasn't factored into that pretty much, right? You just deal with it. And that sort of went on into my adult life pretty much. So I assumed that the behaviour that I was experiencing was normal because I didn't know any different. But, in retrospect, I look back at it and go, you effing idiot, right? It wasn't healthy. It wasn't normal. And, hindsight's a beautiful thing. So I put myself on a mission to sort of go, all right, what can I do? And I had no idea what to do. So I was given an opportunity through my employer, which is still Qantas, to run the New York Marathon in 2017 as part of Team Beyond Blue. So 4 of us from across the organisation got thrown together in this team to run New York. I am a runner, so it wasn't just a holy crap, I'm going to suddenly run 42 days for shits and giggles and see what happens. But a big part of that was raising some funds for Beyond Blue. So I started taking an approach of, look, I'm not clinically trained, I'm not a professional, so I don't want to do anything that goes down those paths, but I thought there's got to be something we can do from a community perspective to engage community. And get people to understand they're not alone, and that it is okay to have a chat, and it's okay to share what's going on, and you're not going to be ostracised. Found out pretty quickly that it, certainly 3 and a bit years ago, that wasn't the case. People still didn't talk about mental health. But, I'm a pretty driven little individual. So I did fundraisers at cafes where, I literally sat there for the whole day, where, the cafes would donate. The one in particular that I used, they donated all their hot drinks basically to my fundraising efforts. And I just sat there and spoke to people all day. Did another event we have a cabaret bar here in Geelong called the Piano Bar, where we did an afternoon. And we sold out within about 2 hours. And it was an afternoon with 250 odd people, all with lived experience, either direct, indirect. And, we just got that message out into community that we weren't alone, and that then planted a seed. Right, went off, ran the marathon, came home, and went, all right, what's next? And that's sort of where we've been at for the past couple of years. Is really just like I didn't want to just sort of throw something out and do it half-assed.
Yes.
If we're going to do this, it was right. Let's plan it. Let's get it right. And let's, when we're ready and we're comfortable where it's at, go bang and hit the community. And especially being in a regional centre like Geelong, we've got our own subset of issues here. Being a regional centre, there's different pressures that come with that as well. So I wanted the focus to be back on a community that has, given me so much in return.
I love it. And before I sort of ask you more about Right Mate and talking about that, a couple of things I picked up on. Well, actually, firstly, I just want to say, wow, like I was listening intently there going, like barely even breathing because I'm going, God, I resonated with so much of what you were saying, like a good chunk of it. And it just, I'm sure there's a lot of people in that same position right now who's probably listening to this as well, or people have gone through it already. And that thought that you'd logically decided that, okay, like this wasn't an act of sudden, like madness or whatever, that you'd actually got to that point and it took your wife stopping you and dead in the eye of being as blunt as that. Unbelievable. And I think that's why to lead on to your wife, and we talk about connection on this, right? That's what we do on Reconnection Hour. I'm assuming that the connection with your wife is strong and that you have an incredible relationship, or you did, for her to notice that. Like, what do you think for her was why did she do that at that point, do you think?
Look, I've always been in awe of my wife, but she is my hero, mate. Like, it's as simple as that. She, in her words, she knew something wasn't right. She picked up on my changes in behaviour, attitude. My fuse was a lot shorter. You name it. She's very good at. As much as I thought I was great at masking everything, and everything was BAU, and no, everything we're all sweet. She knew otherwise, and she admits it took her a while to build up the courage to actually sort of go, I need to understand what's going on, because she'd asked a number of times and I brushed it off, but there was just something about the way, might have been the fact that she dropped an F-bomb and my wife rarely drops the F-bomb. It's just not her, but it hit hard and it was like, okay, enough. It's time to just go bang. And I don't have much of a filter, so I just sort of went with that for the next half hour or so.
Yeah, and I guess that moment, the tap turning on, again, why I'm resonating, another point is once I started talking about it, I couldn't bloody stop. Like maybe the first few sessions of professional help I got 6 years ago when I was 30, I used to come home and then my wife would ask me, so how's it gone? Like, I was lying on the bed and I'd say, yeah, it was okay. And then I wouldn't go in too much. But once I got over the verbal diarrhea or the dumping of this 30 years of went through the exhausting feeling, walked out of the session each time going, I'll run a marathon. Like I literally felt like that. And I stupidly would do it during work. I don't know why, like during lunchtime, try to go back to work. And then I saw progress. Like I've had a lot of false starts, but I got it out there. And then that was a really important thing, right? Yeah. So now one day you started talking, we were talking about, coming out the closet, so to speak. There's no good going back, so you might as well do something bloody good with it, right? Like it's kind of, I think that's exactly what the energy I got from you and what you're saying. That's amazing. Like especially your wife doing that. It's a great story, such a simple thing, but I think they know sometimes the people that are best connected to us. Like we tell ourselves this story that I've hidden it so well from everyone. I knew people who said to me at 22 when I was suicidal, like they literally stopped me in the street, and he wasn't a talker at all, and he went, you literally look like the shoulders, like you've got the world on the shoulders. And then we didn't talk about it, and then we forgot for 8 years. People knew, they just didn't know how to, it wasn't that, they didn't think, maybe they thought I'd opened up, maybe there was no way to get past that point. So kudos to your wife, man. It's incredible. So from that point, when you thought, wow, I'm going to do something bloody damn good with this, and clearly you're determined, how did RightMate come about? Or how did it, was it a gradual process, or did you just have the seed of, okay, let's get cracking? And I guess tell us about what it is and what it does and what you hope to do with it as well.
Yeah, so look, it's very gradual, to be honest. So my initial, I suppose the initial step was I was given an opportunity at Qantas to sort of work within the health and wellbeing space, specifically around the mental health. So I built myself a pretty good knowledge base, and I still do that to this day. Sort of 2.5, sort of three years into my tenure. So that sort of gave me I think just the knowledge that I needed to sort of get an understanding of what could and couldn't be done, so to speak. RightMate came about rather fortuitously. I had a mutual friend introduced me to my business partner, Luke. She sort of sent a message via Instagram going, you two need to get your heads together and have a chat, because I think the two of you could do some pretty cool stuff. So, we reached out, connected, grabbed a coffee, and I think we walked away from that initial meeting just going, yeah, all right, we can do some pretty cool shit. One of the things we both noticed, especially here in Geelong, so there was nothing that was overly strong that was community-based, that addressed social connection, and that wasn't a perceived threatening environment, right? It wasn't there wasn't something where it wasn't a closed room or a particular group set that you had to sort of try and be part of and the like. And there was nowhere where you could find online what was going on in a central location. So the idea of RightMate at its infancy was, let's create a centralized platform. So let's create a website where we can do some research, find the other community-based organisations, because we knew there had to be more of them out there, and how do we put them onto a centralised platform where we can then direct people to go to and go, great, we know there's a barbecue in Geelong, right? We know there's a Tough Guys Book Club chapter that sits here. We know there's a Man Walk, obviously, that sits here in Geelong. What other community-based things are there where we can get men to connect? Right, we know there's men's sheds and the like. And what else is that's a little bit different? All right. So that was it. That's sort of where the idea sort of spawned from initially. It's kind of from that organically sort of grown. So we incorporated, I think, December last year. So we are relatively newish. And the website launched, I think, about 3 weeks ago. Nice. Now we sort of went live. I'm very fortunate. Luke, my business partner and co-founder, is a digital whiz. He owns his own sort of digital marketing business. So he was like, yeah, I can build the website, no worries at all. Just let me know what you want on it. So I sort of supplied the content, and he's made it look really, really cool, and really easy to use. So we're a perfect sort of match in that sense. We were then given an opportunity last year to go and speak at a couple of the private colleges here in Geelong. And that's probably where we sort of went, okay, this can turn from being just a website that is going to give information to actually doing some really cool shit in community. So, we spoke to 2 schools we got invited out to, and we spoke to their senior boys. And the way that we operate is that we don't put together PowerPoints, and we don't put together formal presentations. We're both of a very strong belief that this space doesn't suit PowerPoint presentations and structured presentations as such. It is very much an area where you need to just have a conversation. So your audience that you're talking to needs to be comfortable, and it needs to come natural. There is no script. You would be disgusted at the limited amount of prep that we do when we go and talk to groups. It is literally 3-4 bullet points. Yeah,
do you
mate,
not get? I don't know that. Well, I don't know the depths of your anxiety or whatever it might be, but do you get anxious before you go on? Then, if you haven't prepped?
Oh, God.
Because I would.
I have the Smiling Mind app on. I reckon for a good half hour, just going, no, man, you'll be all right. You know your shit. You'll be okay, right? And the little voice behind my head's going, no, man, this is bad. You should have prepped
Yeah, I would be the same.
Yeah, very much so. But so we held these sessions, and at one of the schools we did, I think it was 5 sessions over the course of the afternoon, and the group sort of ranged from sort of 10 to 20 boys. And the only sort of prerequisite we put on the teachers was that we want it to be in a common room where they're comfortable. We don't want them behind desks or in a classroom as such.
Yeah.
So they had their senior common rooms. So they were on couches, sitting on the floor doing whatever. And our strategy was to get them involved very, very quickly. So we started off with a very basic question around what the phrase "man up" means to them. And if someone said to them "man up," what does it mean? And so they very quickly came out with what they thought it was, and then we sort of went, well, what about kick like a girl? Like, oh, well, it means that you can't do this right and you can't do this as good. And obviously we're very AFL heavy here in Victoria. So we, and it was not long after the grand final, so we said, oh, well, you boys would all know who Taylor Harris is, right? The AFLW player. And they're like, yeah, we know who she is. So, yeah, well, she kicked a footy 62 metres across the Yarra River. Can any of you guys do that? And every group was like, no. And we're like, right, so none of you can kick like a girl. And you saw their faces just sort of go, oh, shit, right. So we challenged them on it, right? And so these sessions were very much about changing perception on a whole lot of stereotypes. We gave them tips about, what to look out for their mates and, how to broach that conversation. And then what do they do with that information as well? And so the feedback we got from these schools was both phenomenal, both from the heads of and the like, and we're talking to them again. They're now keen to get us in on a much more regular basis. So
excellent.
It kind of took Right Mate from being this resource site, which is still what it'll prominently be. And if you have a look on the site, it is a lot of links and resources. But I've just finished writing, I think, 5 programs. So we're looking at targeting, schools, sporting clubs, dads groups. I've written a program that's specifically aimed at females as well. And that's purely from my experience with, my wife. One of her biggest things was she didn't know how to speak to me.
Yeah.
So if we can run some sessions and nights where we're speaking to a female audience and giving them an insight into the male psyche and the type of language to use and the type of things to look for, then that's going to help a whole, subset of people as well, potentially. So
that's excellent. Because I remember I remember my wife talking to me about it, or sort of confronting me the first time, not long after we first met, and then it getting brushed under the carpet, and the time since, the way she's approached it, and also the messages I get, and I used to get, not as many now, but from females saying, oh, how do I get someone to come along to the barbecue? My husband, father, brother, son, whatever it might be. And it's clear to me they want the absolute best for their family member, partner, whatever. They just don't know how to, again, maybe communicate to them effectively the first step. So they're kind of going behind their back, rightly, like in one sense, rightly so, because they're worried about them, thinking, well, how can I find it for them? Try and then make them go there and then stick to like accessing the stuff, which is it's almost an impossible task, right? They can't do it. Like the guy's got to be wanting to do it. So that first step is the really important bit, the communication bit. So I like that you're concentrating on that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it is. We find we have similar experiences. So we also run the Man Walk here in Geelong.
Excellent.
The Man Walk is an amazing national initiative that sort of Mark Burns set up, and that was really our first little foray. That was even before we'd even thought about what Right Mate was. It was look at this amazing initiative where it's blokes coming down and going for a walk once or twice a week. but the amount of comms that I get from Manwalk HQ about, oh, we've had, a mum reach out to us, about her son wanting to attend, or we ask a lot of the guys, the new ones, as they turn up, it's like, oh, how did you hear about us? Oh, my girlfriend or my wife or my sister, saw the post on Facebook or saw a flyer, and they suggested I should come along. So it's that support network is key to getting engaged and giving them that skill set to sort of go, hey, maybe you should go and check this out.
Yeah. And at the actual talks then, the thing I was thinking as you were saying it, talking to the guys especially, what do you think it is that actually makes them connect with it? Because there's so many, my thing is, this is my personal opinion, all the information is there in some format somewhere. Like it's there. Like we kind of pretend and walk around like it's not there and the resources aren't there. They're there, 100% there. But clearly there's something in the delivery and the communication. There's probably a theme we'll come back to 3 times now, communication. In the delivery and the communication of this information, because clearly in maybe a corporate style presentation or setting, it's not getting across, is it? Because people are glazing over and it's not really on their level. And last point before you sort of answer how you think it connects, you just hit the nail on the head for me, because this week I did a presentation for a large recruitment company over Zoom, and I was very nervous about it, and I thought, okay, I've got my safety net of my presentation. It is a very simple one. I've made it so simple. Like, it used to be the most ridiculously detailed thing. I got it down to like 8 pages, and I barely do any corporate stuff. But someone asked me, I thought, okay, I'll do it. And what happened was the managing director of this company rings just before and says, oh, we'll just do it casual, like I'll log on. And I went, forgot to ask, I have no idea how to like share the presentation, have my face there on it as well, like having the corner to talk. So then once we got going, I was like, oh, I haven't got the presentation. We've started. This is going to look really stupid now if I do it. So I was forced not to do it. The result was just the best ever, because I had some ideas of the bullet points of my story. Like, I know my story, right, better than anyone. But I have to convince myself that I need like these bullet points. And the result was, at the end, I just thought, oh, I'll finish it. And everyone was so quiet, me telling it. And then they said, any questions? And then it went on for 40 minutes of questions, talking, like real things, like people saying about themselves, not just, oh, my friend. It was some real great stuff, and a very manly sales like environment of people. How you just said that then about the presentation, I was like, actually, that's such a good point. Like you prep for yourself, but actually what comes across in the communication and the connection is more important, right?
I had a similar experience last year. I got asked to go across to Perth to talk to one of sort of the larger companies in the mining and resource space, and it was they wanted to. The pretense was that they wanted to learn about sort of the mental health program that we do at the airline. Because they saw a lot of similarities in industry. You've got your white collar to your blue collar and the like, and how we'd sort of adapted, the airline. And so I, put together this 30-odd page bloody pitch pack of, right, here's where we started, here's where we're at, and so worked with our head of health and wellbeing. She's like, oh yeah, you should probably tell them about this, and you probably, yep, no worries, all got it sorted. And the sort of start of the meeting, they were like, we want to know, why you're so passionate about it. So I sort of went into I did the, the 2-minute version of the full story, sort of, and went sort of bang. And then we got into the whole, did everything else and went through sort of, what we'd sort of done over the years within the airline. And the end of it, it was very similar. It wasn't the deck. They were like, yep, send it to us, we'll look through that. There's some really cool stuff. But you suddenly had these blokes that are in sort of mining and resource really sort of go, this is where we struggle. We've done this, and we're trying to get this out of our blokes, and and it's amazing what and I think to your question, having a structured preso has its time, and it has its scenarios. But I think if you're just engaging naturally, regardless of the audience, that's going to come through, and that's actually going to be more powerful. I gave an example at the school with sort of one of the early groups. I sort of went, if we walked into that common room, and one of us, whether it was Luke and I, were on crutches, You'd have probably every single person in that room coming up and sort of going, what have you done? They'd want to know how you did it, and do you need any help? Right? What can we do? Do you want us to get you a chair? Are you right? Do you need anything? Just let us know if you need anything, right? But if we'd sort of walked into that room with the sign going, I've got depression and I've got social anxiety, their body inadvertently would change. They'd take a couple of steps back, the arms would cross, their eyes would divert, and you would, not without any malice, there'd be no malice or intent, but they would sort of be like, oh, I'm sure you're okay, or you're just looking for attention, right? So the way we approach these is very much around it. The story part of our preso is when we're presenting to sort of groups is the very last thing that we do. We talk to storytelling and why it is important to helping sort of break those barriers down, because we should get society to a point where, you and I could comfortably just put our hands up in the room and go, you know what, I'm having a shit day. The black dog's really, really on me. I just cannot deal with today. And whether it's your boss or your mates, they shouldn't even blink an eye and go, all right, mate, what do you need?
Yeah.
That's where we need to get it, right? We're not there yet. So the more we can sort of go in and just be, I think what it is with Luke and I and with a lot of the various groups is just be ourselves, right? It's a topic that we are passionate about. And if you're passionate about something, it comes through naturally.
Yeah. Well, we were just saying, right, beforehand, having a brief chat about corporate and like the work, how I can't buy into like a sales pitch or a thing I'm doing to a client or something. And I maybe look like I'm awkward doing it, but when doing this stuff, it just happens because I don't feel like you have to hide or pretend or do whatever. And I think that comes across, and it's the joke of the overthinking of it and the over planning of it, and versus actually just say how you think it should be said, and it doesn't need to be the same each time, and you don't need to remember everything. If you forget something, who gives a shit? Like, you told your story as it came to you that day. That resonates. And no matter how many times you tell yourself that, I still go through the stage of the anxiety of building up, and then I come off and go, actually, that wasn't that bad. It was really good. But again, the communication, like, clearly that comes good to you regardless of the way you're chatting now. But I think people buy into that, and I think that's why it's been a success for probably young blokes and older, and no doubt women, when you deliver the program you do. And there's a couple of a couple of comments that came through from the Facebook channels while we were chatting, and one of the guys said communication's key. Like, as we're talking about, not just communication to our wives or our wives' communication to us about when we are being whatever we're being, communication to your audiences as well. A couple of guys said, thank you so much, Chris, much respect, like, for telling your story as I did. That's just incredible. But Tim as well mentioned the man walk concept, which he said looks so simple and so effective. And there's something, Mr. Perfect, barbecues, so simple, so effective. Delivering your presentation the way you do, so simple, so effective. But Tim also had a further question about it as well. So he obviously buys into this, the man walk concept, and we've actually had him on TRH previously. He runs a group himself called Mongrels Men, and he said he gets these guys together for a sunrise beach run and a swim and a coffee. And he said, is there any suggestions for someone wanting to build a community to get guys off the couch and they need to get out and have a chat, basically? So kind of building into that, your experience with man walk, I guess, coupled with the way you connect with people.
So man walk was really simple to set up, thanks to sort of Mark and his team, in terms of, they needed some base info, and then bang, it was up. And it was, my view on it was very much, I had a chat with both my GP and my psych initially before I took it on, and just went, I don't see anything like this around. Do you think it's going to be of benefit? And both of them resoundingly just went, hell yes. Right. And so that's all I needed to then literally go and knock on every bloody door in Geelong. I hit the radio stations up, I hit the newspaper, cafes, supermarket notice boards, It flyers left, right, and centre. Community groups, counselling services, Barwon Health. I was sending emails left, right, and centre going, "Hey, here's what we're doing. We're not clinical. We're not even pretending to be clinical. We're promoting social connection amongst men." So I think my advice to Tim is very much, mate, just get out there and ask. For every no that you'll get 100 yeses back, right?
Yeah.
It's going to cost people nothing to put a flyer up on their Facebook page, right? Or on their socials, or in the window of their cafe, or whatever it is. The more people know about it, the more of a community it'll generate, and the more interest it'll generate as well, right? So it's very much just ask, just get out there and go, "Hey, here's what we're doing." And we kept it very simple, right? Our pitch was very simple. It's, when we first started, we were just walking on a Saturday morning, and it was, "Here's what we're doing, right? We're going to walk for an hour. We're meeting at this point on the waterfront. We walk for an hour. If you want to talk, great. If you don't, it's good. No worries." And we've had many weeks where there's been blokes who've joined us that won't say a word. But then they come back 2 or 3 times, and then suddenly you can't shut them up, and it's awesome, right?
Yeah.
But we keep it simple. It is just, look, come for a walk, and we make it with Geelong especially. We stress the fact that the conversation will be about whatever on the day, right?
Yes.
We're not going to. If someone wants to put their hand up and go, "Hey, you know what? I'm dealing with something," awesome. But 9 times out of 10, I think one week, the best one I think we've had, the conversation for the hour went around whether microwaving a donut is the best way to have it or not. That was legit. We spoke about this for an hour because there were some pretty strong views on it, right? Depending on the type and the variables were amazing. But it was the best chat because everyone was relaxed, having a laugh, and they just got so much out of the morning. And then we finished up with a coffee afterwards. And we find with Geelong, it's when we sit down at the end of the walk and have that coffee, that's when the conversation turns. Because they're comfortable, they're relaxed, they've walked for an hour. And, that's when we really find they start to open up a bit more. And we've now got, so we started in July with Man Walk. We've got a core group of regulars. And, most weeks when we were physically walking, we were getting, we were averaging probably 12 to 15 blokes a walk, quite regularly on both now Wednesday night and a Saturday morning. We went virtual probably 3-4 weeks ago. And that's been really interesting as well.
Yeah, tell me about that. I want to know how you got connection out of that, or how you attempted it, or
So it's been really interesting. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never done anything sort of virtual to that point. You've done conference calls with work and whatnot. But it was very much around that. Well, what are they going to be like? When they're all at home, basically. And they've been awesome. They're all pretty relaxed. And it's great seeing them in their home environments as well. And we're not, the numbers are probably a little bit less than what we would get if we were physically there.
Of course.
But we don't know everyone's circumstances. But the guys that are joining are really invested in it. And we're trying to mix it up. Sort of, Wednesday nights is silly hat night, so everyone's sort of encouraged to wear a stupid hat of description. Wednesday nights are also ice cream night normally, because our walk route changes a little bit when we are physically walking. We stop by an ice cream shop. So Luke, is quite proudly rocks up with generally a tub of different ice cream every week and demolishes that during the session. And Saturdays, it is a bit of a reflection on the week, a little bit of banter. The last couple of Saturdays, we've been asking the guys to come up with a story, and we've had the rest of whoever else is on the chat, we've had to guess whether it's true or false. And we've realised we've got some very good storytellers amongst our midst, because so it's just about keeping them connected, right? that was it. You know, Roke and I sat down and sort of went, okay, we can't physically walk now because of social distancing. So how do we keep these guys connected? And so it was a no-brainer. It's like, right, let's set up Zoom, let's get them going, push it out, get them logging on, and just see where we go. Right.
That's brilliant. I think we found the same. Like we were worried people just wouldn't buy into it or wouldn't feel comfortable or whatever it might be. However, it just took one. It was discussions about ridiculous things, and then it took one question from someone. Oh, yeah, we'd never said don't bring up anything that might be a bit hairy to people or whatever. Once they did, it was dealt with just incredible. Like someone answered, someone gave a bit of a personal story. I then gave my experience of something, and before you knew it, it was like 2 hours later we're chatting, and we had to kind of finish there because people had to go off and do it. But I think everyone walked away with, man, that was beneficial. That was better than sitting on my couch watching Netflix for those.
Yeah, and they're the best chats, and we find that a lot with Man Walk. Is, you know, we've had a number of the sort of men go, you know, it's a realization for a lot of these blokes that they're not on their own. Because you know, you have a mix of, you've got blokes that are, you know, co-parenting. So, you know, every second week they have a huge social network because they've got the kids, but then on those off weeks they don't, right? And so suddenly, what do? Or you've got, you know, guys that have just moved to the town, and so don't know people. So how do you, if you're in sort of your mid-30s, how do you go and meet mates, right? And form friendship circles. Shift workers, you know, both professional and non-professional, divorced men, you know, you name it. The demographic's broad. You know, our youngest walker is 16 years old. Sorry, he's 17 now, if I keep calling him 16. So he's 17, right? But he is wide beyond his years. And he gets huge benefit, and he gives us a different perspective on things. So it is just trying to, how do you positively promote that social connection? Because I'm sure if you know, and we joke about it a lot, especially on the Saturday morning, you know, there's a bunch of middle-aged blokes walking at a stupid hour of the morning along the Geelong waterfront, and you know, you're surrounded by all the guys doing bloody boot camps and you know, the walkers and the runners and stuff. In the first few weeks, they were wide berthing. I thought there was no tomorrow, right? Because we're all, you know, you're all in jeans and whatever else. But now we found they're actively looking for us. And saying g'day, and you know, and making sure that, you know, the numbers are there and whatnot. So it's even changing that perception amongst the community, that just because there's a bunch of blokes walking, it's not a bad thing. These guys are actually doing something that's really cool.
And you mentioned, you know, you've got the 17-year-old coming along, but I was thinking about, and you've also got a 10-year-old son, right? So how do you connect with him on talking about mental health or things that you're doing now? Like, how does he understand it, or do you have sort of an open discussion with him? Yeah,
so he we're pretty open with him. You know, he knows Dad sort of gets up and down, and fortunately or unfortunately, he is very good at reading the signs as well. But we're also big on encouraging him to talk about what's going on inside himself as well. You know, we did have him seeing a child psychologist last year for a bit. My wife went through a pretty serious health scare, and his anxiety went through the roof. So we got quite proactive on that, and sort of we wanted to give him tools that we couldn't give him as parents.
Amazing. I love that.
And so, you know, he did that for, you know, a few sessions, and, you know, he hasn't sort of gone back since, but he's now got those tools within himself.
That's so good.
You know, with him, I use the Smiling Mind app with him as well. So, you know, it is, mate, do you think you need to, do we need to put the app on? And he'll be like, oh yeah, you know, I probably need about 10 minutes or so. So he is learning to recognize within himself. So for us, it's really just about normalizing it, right? That it's okay to feel really sad, and that it's okay to feel really, really nervous about something, but trying to explain it in language that he'll understand, and that he'll associate. We don't want him to associate it as a negative behavior.
No, of course. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you want him, especially as he goes through his teenage years, to be able to recognize that what he's feeling is normal, and giving him different ways to be able to deal with those feelings as he goes through adolescence and puberty and all that fun stuff that I'm just not looking forward to having to deal with, and my wife left. So yeah, we've just, it was a no-brainer for us with him. It was just to, make him aware enough of what's going on without scaring the shit out of him.
Of course. Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of my boys is 4, and already I can tell like he's quite sensitive. Well, my wife says he's like mini me, and the other one's like a bit more extroverted and not really caring about the world, and just does what he wants and everything. But Finn is very sensitive, and I already think about those conversations already. I'm like, when we do have that conversation, or we have a bigger conversation about it, I think having that now, just even planting those seeds to say he can come to you, and your son can come to you when he's even remotely feeling a tiny bit off, and just voicing it, that is so powerful. The connection he'll get just from you doing that, but the connection he'll feel to himself to know when he's feeling like that, because I'm sure exactly the same for you as for me, us at 10 years old. Yeah. When I felt those things, it was scary as hell, and I think I mentioned it on a podcast last week. I was suicidal. I was only 10 years old, and how is that possible? I look back now and go, it happened. I didn't know what it was. It was scary, and I did my absolute best, as you probably did. Just push it away, push it away, and all it did was just slightly get worse every year, and fester and fester and fester, and it almost led to, to something not so great happening. So I think it's brilliant to get it in early, so that the normal for him will be, and the normal for our sons and the younger men in our lives will be a good one. I think it's brilliant. And then
it's key to what we need to do, right? If we can, if through the power of groups like, whether it's Man Walk, whether it's Mr. Perfect, Tough Guys, Right Mate, whatever, I'm a strong believer that it's rebuilding that simple art of human social connection that we seem to have lost. If we can build that back up within society, it'll then take the pressures off what is an already overladen mental health system, right?
Yes.
So if we can help take some of that pressure off them by potentially getting to guys early, and not letting them go to that extreme, length, then it gives them the breathing space to be able to really focus on those critical cases, right? And make sure that those people that do need that full-on professional help are getting the best possible assistance they can get. At the moment, in a broad range of scenarios, it's a triage method for them, unfortunately. So they're not probably getting the best of what they probably could be getting, right? So I think there is and I don't want to use the word onus, but I think there's a strong need for groups like ours as a community to band together and go, you know what, you guys are doing some really cool shit with your barbecues. We're doing some really cool shit with walks. You want to read a book? You can go, there's a bloke's book club, or there's camping, or there's whatever. And the more awareness we can get around the social connection of it, and bring men of different walks of life. And that's what I love about the community-based approach so much, is the fact that it's all walks of life. You've got professionals, you've got, white collar, blue collar, and every other collar in between. But when they're together, they're just blokes, right? If you look at, I look at our Man Walk group, and there's no way we should work, but we do. We're all from so different walks of life, but we're all just blokes that want to have a chat. Right? And talk bullshit. And every now and then, you know what, the conversation gets serious, and that's where the life experience comes into it, right? And that realization that, oh shit, I'm not on my own, because 2 or 3 other blokes in the group have put their hand up and gone, oh yeah, we went through that a few years ago. So we can relate to that. And mate, if you need some help, or you need someone to talk to, just let us know, right? At the same time, we're also mindful, especially with Right Mate, that we're not professionals, and so we've got a couple of dedicated pages on our site to be able to redirect to professional services.
Of course.
It's one thing. What what shits me to tears with some of the groups that are out there is they take a very simplistic approach to this and go, all you need to do is have a chat.
Yeah.
Right? That's all you need to do. As long as you talk, that's it. Because blokes don't talk. So all you need to do is talk, fellas, and you'll be all right.
Just tell everyone. Yeah.
If I went and sat in a room full of 12 farmers, right, who have gone through a major drought and gone, fellas, everything's all right. All you need to do is talk. I wouldn't make it out of there alive, right?
Yeah.
So we're very reticent of that fact, and we realise that what we need to do is, the conversation is a part of the process, but unless we understand what the actual issue is, the conversation's pointless.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So we ideally from Right Mate, and I'm pretty sure we've got the summary on our bloody website, we've said this, is what we ideally want to do is build a community of blokes that are not only comfortable, a lot more comfortable in their skin, have an understanding of what's going on, and have the tools in place to then be able to share that knowledge to other blokes. Right.
It's amazing.
If we can get that sort of chain of events sort of clicking, just by being us, and having a chat and telling what we know and bringing in experts when we need to, similar to what sort of, you do with your TRH hours and the like, and, what the guys at Blokopedia do and whatnot is get some resources and really cool experts and bring them in for that opinion. The Man Walk last Wednesday night, we had, my psych actually gave up some of his time, and he spoke to the boys for half an hour with just around different techniques to potentially utilise, and that was invaluable, right? It was, so we're very mindful of the fact that we do need to have those guys involved as well, but a big core part of it is trying to understand what is actually going on, what the issues are at hand, and how we address them. And the conversation is just a part of that.
I think we've realised that what we've been doing recently, that it's evolved over sort of 4 years or so, and where we originally just had a gut feel, like we knew what we were doing and went, okay, I think this is kind of working, there's a place for this. It's more so now we're learning more ourselves, just being involved in it and realising, okay, well, actually, this isn't the end of the story. Come to a barbecue and it'll be bloody brilliant. It's now, let's be a bit more thoughtful about this and know where we are and know what we're not. So we're very clear on that now. But it's also, we get a lot of questions about, well, what's the next step? Are there other steps, men's groups, men's circles? Is that the next logical step? Because in my head, I love to map things, and I see this like a, pathway of, this is where we kind of sit at the front or near the front, let's say. And then the next step would be go a bit deeper in a men's group or a men's circle or something that's a closed group, and the next step in conjunction, there might not be a linear pathway. It might be the psychologist with that, the GP with that, right up the chain, essentially. And not necessarily everyone's going to follow that, because I went to the end of the chain before I came back. So, but I'd rather people didn't do that, because it's going to be a lot healthier and better for them if they kind of, if they realise it early and understand other people around them might be going through that. So there is a bit of an education piece. Although we were very reticent to say we give education, we are giving education in what we're talking about right now, and we are kind of setting the scene to say there are next steps. Like, it's not just us, like there will be next steps on this pathway. If we can help you a little bit with that, then incredible, and we're always going to be there anyway if you want to drop back in. So
exactly. It's I'm a huge believer in it. It is about collaborating in this space, right? You could very easily take an approach and go, you know what? No, you're competition to me. So I don't want to be talking to you, right? And unfortunately, there are people out there that are doing that.
That's human nature, isn't it? You get it. It's quite fun if you get it. Yeah.
Whereas it should just be, well, okay, we do this really well. You guys do that really well. They do something else really well. So how do the three of us or four of us get together and do something absolutely kick-ass, right? Together, and that's where we're fortunate. We've got organisations like the Men's Health Forum and Foundation and the like, who are sort of doing some really cool stuff and trying to bring us all together and go, hey, let's showcase everyone, because there's some really cool stuff going out there. So how do we promote that idea of collaboration a lot better?
Well, I think that's what you and I, and it's probably a nice way to sort of round things up. I was going to ask you a couple more questions, but I think you covered it. You covered it so well in that last last bit you were talking there, and had a couple of comments on it as well to say it was good. That's, yeah, you covered off what I wanted. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better, basically. So I want to thank you for putting it so eloquently. And I think you and I will obviously be talking a lot more as the AMHF, Australian Men's Health Forum. They're doing a great job at the moment. They realise that, shit, there's a lot of people doing things at the moment. Why are we, one, probably duplicating in some places? Why are we all getting stressed ourselves because we're trying to help everyone else, when just a little chat here and there and a little bit of collaboration will go a huge way, and we can start to form this bigger picture, or a map, as I say, that will help them. So they don't just go, where do I look for this? How do I find it? But what if I go there? I don't know anyone who's been to that. What if it sends, they have zero idea at the moment. They just see lots of noise. So I think we're fortunate enough to be in a position that we can bring that together, I hope.
Our very first man walk was in July. It was 4 degrees and raining sideways at 7:30 at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. We had 10 blokes turn up. So that told us very quickly that we've hit something, right? Yeah. I think, and obviously I'm mindful of the time as well, but there's a quote. I discussed this with you off camera earlier. I think I just want to leave everyone with that I've sort of tried to sort of live by over the past sort of 3.5 years. And it was actually a mate of mine that came up with it and sort of hit it with me one day while I was prepping for New York for the marathon. And it was, step outside of your comfort zone so that someone else can find theirs. Right. So if every single person that's sort of watching this, or anyone that you come by, can take that advice on, if you just take that one little step outside of your comfort zone, the impact that you potentially going to have for someone else to go, okay, if that person can do it, I can do it, is going to be huge. And it only has to be one person. Right?
True. I think we're seeing that. That's, you beautifully put that. It's a nice way to end it. Final thing I will say is, how do people find out about RightMate?
www.rightmate.org.au is our website. We have a public Facebook page, RightMate Geelong, and our Instagram is right.mate, and we've also got a LinkedIn page. So on the socials, basically, the website has links to. Has the little sort of, I don't know what that, Luke could probably throw a comment up going, look, the little icon tile thingies. That's what I call them. He knows what they're called. But you click them and it takes you to the Facebook, the LinkedIn, and the Instagram. So
amazing. So I can urge everyone to go check out RightMate after this, please. That would be incredible. I'll probably comment in the comments anyway, the links and everything. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Chris. I think I've learned a lot, and a lot of resonation in stories. A lot of excellent points, and the communication is a big theme of what we talked about, keeping it simple, and I love that quote you said as well. So thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to be talking to each other a lot more. Everyone go and check out RightMate. Please take care, everyone. Look after each other. Do something you truly love this week to connect, and look after each other. Take care, guys.
Thanks, mate.
See ya.